Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again, and today we're going to be doing another clone comparison from Dapper. This is Tobacolor by Dior, so stay tuned for that. If you like fragrance reviews, clone comparisons, top 10 lists, and first impressions, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So full disclosure, I was sent this along with a couple other fragrances from Dapper for review. So just full disclosure there that I did receive this from the company. I do have a couple more which I'm definitely going to be getting to. I did do a review of their version of Italica if you want to check that out. I did finally get to try Tobacolor in the store, have a good feeling of what the fragrance is all about. And so now I feel definitely very good and comfortable talking about this fragrance. Not only just how it smells, because I've worn this several times, but how it compares to the original. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, Tobacolor, or rather, you know what I'm going to do? Actually, I'm going to talk about this fragrance, what this one smells like to me, and then at the end, I'm going to do an overall comparison with the original. Point out some areas that I do feel like it's a little bit different. Just to give you the short of it, I do think this is actually a really, really good clone. Now, this fragrance, right on the opening, you get this really, really nice honey. And, I actually do pick up the citruses that are in the original. And with that honey vibe that it has, it makes it a nice, sweet, citrusy. That citrus has a little bit of a sharp, citrusy vibe, but it's not overly strongly citrus. Just a little hint of it that almost gives off, with the honey, a little bit of a almost candy feel. Very nice, very well done with respect to the actual sweetness. It's not overwhelming at any point, and that's one thing I can really appreciate. It's really a really nice amount of sweetness. So if you picture maybe honey-covered citruses, I get definitely a little bit of that in the opening. Feels very, very nice. Now, the tobacco, which is something that does, or that people would expect from this fragrance, certainly starts to seep into it as the fragrance progresses. Now, that honey vibe does certainly stay there. And for me, an easy comparison was Naxos. Now, Tobacolor does not smell like Naxos, but it is in a similar vein in the sense that it is a honey tobacco fragrance. And I think, like Naxos, the tobacco is not super, super dominant in this one. Again, they do smell quite different, although they have a sort of similar vibe. But the tobacco is more, to me, it is stronger than I get in Naxos. There is 3 different kinds, I believe, of tobacco in this. And so it does have a little bit more oomph in that tobacco feel. It is a little bit of a dry tobacco. It's not wet like you get a little bit in the opening of like red tobacco. And it is a little bit more like maybe a pipe tobacco or something along those lines. It's not like a overtly fresh tobacco either. So despite there being 3 different kinds of tobacco in it, I don't really get a really robust sensation of tobacco. Not in the sense of if you tried Salt and Vetiver by Nishane, it has 4 different kinds, I believe, of vetiver in it, and you really get a lot of different feelings that vetiver has to offer throughout the fragrance. Now, I will say that with this particular fragrance, I don't really get a bunch of different dimensions to the tobacco. It does sort of all add up and accumulate up to a nice feeling of tobacco. Now, there is a bit of smokiness as well in this fragrance. It's really nice. Now, as this one does start to dry down, the tobacco does become a little bit more prominent, and that honey and the sweetness does tone down a little bit. But it is a fairly one-dimensional fragrance. There is a little bit of transition there between the sweetness and the tobacco, but overall, it is definitely something that I feel like fairly close to the starting is kind of what you get. You just get toning down of those top notes and a little bit more amplifying of those tobacco and the base notes more. So the citrus does disappear. The honey tones down a lot. It becomes less sweet as time goes by, more tobacco dominant, but it's not like a journey. So it's definitely not a journey kind of a fragrance, but it does have a little bit of a transition, I guess, to be aware of. But overall, really nice fragrance. And if you do like that honey tobacco vibe, this is one worth trying out. You know, it does have a really nice fruity, citrusy, honey sweet opening as well, which is also really, really nice. I believe it's peach and plum. I think I get a little bit more of that peach than I do the plum. The plum isn't super standout for me, but it is, I think, there. Now, the performance of this fragrance is also really, really good. So, you know, I would go anywhere from 3 to 5 sprays. Let me actually, just, you may not be familiar with the sprayers. It does have a really nice atomizer on the bottle, so it is really, really nice in that respect. You get a good distribution, and I would go 3 to 5 sprays on this one personally. Now, it is one that I also think you get good longevity, definitely hanging out in that 8+ hours. It is an extrait de parfum, which is more concentrated, I guess, than the original, so you might hope for or want better performance since it is an extrait. And I do feel like the performance is very, very strong. So opens up, really nice projection. It doesn't really sit down too much. Like, obviously it does sit closer to the skin, but it is one even several hours later, if I'm moving around, especially if I spray it on my neck, if I turn side to side or whatever, I do get whiffs of it. So it is one where I think that the sillage is there for a good amount of time. And it certainly is around that 8+ hour mark where, you know, it starts to become noticeably not so much there. But like I said, overall performance is also very, very strong. So this is a nice, sensual honey tobacco fragrance. Has interesting sort of fruity, citrusy top as well. Really enjoy this one. And I think the price point, if I remember, is pretty good. I think you definitely do get this one less per milliliter than if you bought the original, and that's, at least for me, one thing I generally tend to look for or want in a cologne. I know some cologne houses, especially like Dua, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say bad things about Dua. I do feel like they're a little bit expensive because a lot of the times what you find is that it's more per milliliter than if you bought the original. Now, true, you can buy smaller bottles, and that can be very appealing, especially if you have a large collection, but it's always nice to see when you can get a smaller bottle that is also less per milliliter than the original. And from the prices that I checked, that generally tends to be the case with the brand, so that's really nice as well. Now, onto the comparison. I'm sure the part that perhaps interests some people the most. Now, some colognes, you know, they smell good in their own right. They may not smell very close to the original, but they still smell really, really good, even if you can tell that they're actually different. To me, this is not really one of those fragrances. It's actually very, very close. Now, there are some differences. I do find that this one is not quite as smoky as the original. So if you love that smoke aspect of it, you might find this a little disappointing, but there is definitely a smokiness here. I definitely get more smokiness and earlier smokiness in the original. There are aspects of this one where in the opening I find it a little bit more powerful, actually, especially with respect to the fruity, citrusy aspects of this one. But I think the honey vibe is pretty much right on point. So really it is very, very close. Performance, I would say it at least compares to the original Tobacolor. But honestly, it might even perform a little bit better. But very, very close with respect to both scent profile and performance. So if you're looking for something that is, you know, a good clone, an actual good clone or a close replica of Tobacolor, excellent opportunity right here. Personally, I think this one is actually really, really good. Now, when to buy this one, I actually put Dior Tobacolor on my fall designer list. Fall, very nice time to wear this one. Also, it does have enough strength. I think winter is also really good. With the fact that it is sweet, a little bit fruity, citrusy, has that tobacco note, and can even be a little bit smoky, I think it is definitely better for fall, winter. It is something that I could see wearing this on an evening out. I could see wearing this in a suit. It does have a lot of class about it. It does have good character. Now, personally, like I said, I am the kind of person who, for me personally, I generally care most about seasons. And the reason being is that, you know, a lot of the heavier fragrances you just can't really wear in the summer, or you're going to choke somebody out. Unless, of course, you're going to be inside. Now, with respect to citrusy fragrances, freshies, if I'm going to be inside, I don't mind wearing them in the winter, but I do recognize that they're not going to perform as well in the cold. So this is one of the reasons why I do take care of seasons, whereas situations, not as much. I mean, if I'm going out with people and I'm really looking for something a little bit more sensual, especially if it's a date or something, I do sometimes pick with regards to that. You know, there are times where on the office I don't purposefully pick something that is definitely going to be difficult for people around me. Personally, I'll wear something like single malt with no problem, even though it is a boozy fragrance. I don't mind, and I know it's a pleasing fragrance, although I know a lot of people would not feel comfortable wearing that, you know, in the office. So situations for me, it's just, you know, there is some degree to which I think about it, but it's not something I overly think about a lot. But I know some people do, and to me, those are kind of the best situations. Fall, winter, evenings out, fancy occasions. Those are definitely the best times to wear this particular fragrance, and it is an absolute winner. I mean, Dior did a really good job with this fragrance. It is one of the best Dior releases in a while. And this clone, this impression, whatever you want to call it, inspiration, is really good. It's not exactly 100%, but it is definitely that 90 plus territory. So definitely worth checking out if you want to find, you know, an alternative to buying the original. And the other downside I will say with the Dior private line is that I think the smallest bottle is 125 ml or something like that. I know that a lot of them is 250 ml or above. And, you know, in a lot of cases, that is a lot of fragrance. And for people who collect, that's a big bottle. That's one of the things that's actually deterred me from buying some of the private lines, that the bottles you can get are only big. And it would take me 20 years to use a single bottle. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it. Dapper, Tobacolor. Check out the brand if you haven't. I will leave a link down below to the site so you can check it out. They have a really good selection of fragrances. And you know what, if you've tried the brand, tell me your favorite from Dapper, or let me know some other really good clone fragrances that you enjoy yourself as well. Anyways, guys, that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.